What's going on, my fellow A-Plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new episode of A-Plus Morphinominal, your stop for your Power Rangers and Tokusatsu news and reviews. It is I, your Morphinominal host, Adam Perez, and we are, in fact, back once again with a brand new video today. So happy Toku Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, as we're about to get into Kiramager, episode number 40 today. We also have a Kamen Rider Saber review that should, in fact, be dropped along with a Gokaiger reaction for you guys later on today as well. So you guys know how we love to do around here on Toku Tuesdays. We definitely got to celebrate with a ton of content for you guys, so definitely look forward to it today. But I hope your weeks have certainly started off correctly and hopefully started off great today by getting the opportunity to talk some Kiramager. But always remember, guys, these are just my A-plus opinions. At the end of the day, though, I definitely want to go ahead and know yours. So please tell me about your thoughts on Kiramager episode number 40 today in the live chat or in the comment section box below after this video has certainly aired. I would definitely want to go ahead and continue your discussion along. But guys, you know the business around here. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet, along with that bell notification and that big thumbs up. Definitely like this video to certainly help YouTube certainly recognize our work, ladies and gentlemen. But other than that, let's get into episode number 40 of Kiramager. An episode, guys, that, if I can be honest with you, I don't really know exactly how I felt about it. There are some really great elements about this episode that we're going to get into, and then there are just some really creepy and uncomfortable and awkward moments in here and questions that I have that I feel like that needs to be addressed. Maybe I looked at this episode incorrectly, or maybe certain things just hit me the wrong way. But this episode, I really don't know, guys. I really don't know, guys. I kind of am curious to know what you guys think. But the first thing that I do want to talk about, one of the things that really stood out to me, at least the moment that this episode kind of starts, I love the Marsk enemy that we have this week in the Wire Marsk, I believe is his name. The fact here that we have Tarantula that winds up creating a brand new monster, and I absolutely love the design of this Marsk animal, Marsk beast, if you will, or Wire Marsk, whatever you want to call him. I have been a really big fan of how they've done the villains this season in regards to just some of their design, but the design for this one, absolutely perfect. I thought it was great. I thought it was menacing, honestly, very void of any sort of expressions, if you will, and I think it works because of the fact that the mask is pretty much all black, but really the facial expressions on his face are really produced by just like these coils of wire, if you will, and there was just something very void of emotions that just kind of came across really creepy and menacing to me, and it really felt as though Yodonheim was kind of putting its best foot forward this week, and what I thought was a pretty solid and kind of eerie plan. Not sure if this was going to be a plan that was going to last over several different episodes or if it was going to be a one-off, but it seemed like Tarantula had a pretty good plan in place. The idea here that not only was she going to use the Wire Marsk here, who has the ability to disguise himself as you. He can actually become sort of like your identical twin and become and almost like looking in a mirror, if you will. So not only does he want to use those powers to his advantage, but he also plans on using the Grantor Stone in the Alusha that is now going to be able to create illusions as well. So talk about just like a double whammy about to hit our Kiramagers here in this episode. And I honestly thought that they used the powers and things like that to perfection, to say the least. But leave it up to somebody like Juru, whose Kira mentality just tends to overcome anybody that he certainly wants to save or take down. So I honestly thought the Yodonheim's plan was pretty good this week, but unfortunately they did have Juru that wind up kind of stepping in the way there. But again, I thought the Marsk Beast design was pretty fantastic in here, and I really love just the idea of how his him being able to change his form and his shape to be to look like you or me or whoever case may be. I love how he played the Kiramagers very early on in here to kind of really add that level of distrust amongst our group, right? When we get to see in one of the opening sequences in here, when our Kiramagers are chasing down this Marsk Beast, they wind up splitting up. I did find it interesting that Sina, Shiguru, and I believe it was Takamichi wind up being grouped together, and I think Tomitomo ran off on his own, and then we see Tomitomo running into Shiguru. And then it makes him question once he sees the other Shiguru that's with Cena exactly who's who. It did leave me scratching my head a little bit that Cena, for the most part, just reacted, right? Like, she didn't even ask questions. She didn't even like try and figure things out about what was going on here to see who was the real person. She just took one Shiguru's word and just immediately started distrusting the other one and started kicking on Shiguru's ass, the real Shiguru to say the least. Not only Cena, but Takemichi, like literally throwing him into a wall, busting up his nose and things like that. So a really great move by Yodonheim in here to really kind of get that distrust. And I got to give props to just the director for this episode this week, because I was kind of questioning when we first see our Kiramagers at the command center at first, why is the camera so close up to all of their faces while they're like eating food and stuff, right? Like really honing in on their facial expressions. But then it really comes full circle and you see why. And I just thought that seeing the Kiramagers the second time in those same camera shots and positions, I thought it was just really great work to all of a sudden kind of change the mood and the tone of the story that you're kind of telling. That, you know, not only are they, you know, earlier on we saw them happy-go-lucky amongst one another kind of talking, now we see all the shifting eyes, right, and all the attitude and expression on people's face as to who can I trust, who can I not trust amongst this group. And I thought it was just a really great kind of turning of the vibe and the atmosphere of this week's episode. But then, of course, you gotta laugh when it comes to Kiramager, because they do love mixing it up with some lightheartedness. The idea of seeing how the Kiramagers are going to decide whether or not you're the real you or not by giving you like a tickle contest. Like how much tickling can you handle, or, you know, is that gonna turn you back to who you were and things like that. Like, I just love seeing Mabushina and Cena coming at the camera, like getting ready just to kind of tickle you type of thing. I can't lie, I am pretty ticklish, so that was kind of frightening to me. But I did love that Takemichi got it. The poor Seiyo wind up getting it. And I think it was even one of the gems in here also when Seiyo was laughing, getting tickled. One of them was like, she doesn't laugh like Seiyo usually does or something. I'm like, really? Now how you laugh is going to be the one factor as to whether or not you're the real person or not? I just thought it was brilliant and pretty funny on the Kiramagers' part to think that that was certainly going to help them at the end of the day. And quick honorable mention does go out to Moryu in here, because I honestly thought for a second something was up with Moryu, like just from his facial expression when he has like the complete blank face and he's working at the computer, and then when you see Juru running into him at the store, I'm like, so who's in the command center? So they really got me in regards to that. They really pranked me, and you come to find out that he was actually just creating a clone of him. So great swerve, writers. You definitely got me in regards to that. But yeah, I thought the way that the wire march this week was handled great, and then definitely seeing its impact on the Kiramagers. But I gotta be honest with you guys, this episode for me really comes down to two people, Juru and Hada. I really enjoyed Juru's storyline this week. I really did. Finally getting him the spotlight one more time. You clearly get to see that Juru loves being a part of like art forums, if you will, being able to communicate with other artists, seeing other artwork, getting inspired, having him posting his own work out there also. There is something really infectious about just Juru's personality and his love when it comes to art. And so we do see here that he winds up meeting a young man by the name of Calorie. I don't know who names their kid Calorie, to be perfectly honest with you, but he winds up meeting this kid named Calorie, who wants to help Juru become better as an artist. And of course, Juru's certainly going to take him up on that opportunity. But when they wind up meeting, Calorie informs him the way he wind up getting better at art is because of his friend by the name of Hada, who we wind up actually getting the opportunity to meet in here. Hada and Calorie, for the most part, seems pretty close friends. But kind of like Juru, I asked myself, wait, you're friends with an adult? Right? Like, I asked the question before Juru even asked the question. And Juru asks the question in a sense of like, that's odd, right? Like that's not something normal that you kind of see. You know what I mean? That like your best friend is like some adult dude. Like what's going on here? So I was like, huh? He's an adult? And then all of a sudden, Juro's like, wait, he's an adult? So I'm like, I know I'm not the only one that's questioning this right now, right? And listen, so the interactions go on just fantastically great, right? Like, there are some times when Juro's a little bit too in your face. You're such a genius. You're so good at everything. I'm like, Juru, you got to chill. You got to calm down, bro. You've got so much energy right now. Like, I can't even deal with you right now. There's just some moments, but there are other moments where he's just that supportive of a guy, right? That, that great constructive criticism, right? That great, like, hey, I'm going to jump right on board and support you wholeheartedly type of thing, right? You've got dreams, you got things you want to aspire to be. I'm just going to help continue to push you and encourage you type of thing. That's who Juru certainly is. But there are times when he's like a little bit, I wouldn't say the guy's a genius, man, but you don't got to get all up in his face and touch him and stuff. Like, calm down, Juru, calm down just a little bit. But I did find it fascinating that we come to find out, or at least Juru finds out, that this guy by the name of Hada is kind of like a little bit of a recluse, right? I think Juru overhears a former schoolmate of his walking by the house with his girlfriend. He's like, yeah, that's the house. That's the house that guy lives in. Nobody's seen him in years. Like, I think the homeboy's literally trying to count on one hand how many times he's actually seen this guy sort of come out in public, right? So Hada clearly has some things that he's certainly dealing with that has kind of kept him indoors, not really opening up or socializing to other people. And one of the things that we come to quickly find out here is that Hada, for the most part, does not take rejection well. He does not take the idea of being alone well at all. Almost like I don't want to say he's trying to impress people in order to kind of keep them around as friends, but it's very nerve-wracking for him to kind of put himself out there. So the opportunities that he has to meet friends are very limited, right? So I get the idea of not wanting to lose what you're already holding on to or what you already have, right? So I'll be honest with you too, like, when he does get the rejection letter in here that he certainly didn't make it, I feel terrible for him. I absolutely do. I feel like this episode does do a really good job of just highlighting the seriousness of what people deal with in regards to depression, right? The inability to handle rejection, the inability to socialize with people or feel sort of socially awkward, if you will, around other people. When he sees the rejection letter and then all of a sudden the comments and things like that, right? Like, honestly, I'm glad. I honestly feel super lucky that I made it through high school before social media and technology got to the point to where it certainly is now. I mean, damn, if I had to watch comments and listen to everybody's opinions growing up as a kid, I don't know how I would certainly do it, to be honest with you. So there is a level of realism in this episode to kind of punch you in the face in a sense of reality. Like, hey, this is something that people deal with on a regular basis. And while it's not necessarily Calorie who's the little kid dealing with it, it's still Hada, who's certainly a grown-ass man, if you will. But, so I can't lie. There was like a little bit of an uncomfortability involved in regards to seeing how close Calorie and Hada certainly was. I mean, this guy was talking about thinking of Calorie in his dreams. I think all the things that he inspires or appreciates or loves in his life winds up like sort of popping up and things like that when he's trapped inside this Marsk beast, if you will. I was trying to think to myself, like, how long have they been friends? But if I come to think of it, I feel like they probably haven't been friends long at all, right? Because the swerve at the end, I feel like, is that Calorie wasn't a real person the entire time. Is that what you guys are feeling? Like, I'm wondering if Calorie was literally the wire Marsk this whole entire time. Because there is a moment where we see the wire Marsk and a couple of the muddies or whatever. They wind up capturing some people, and the Marsk was immediately like, oh, you know what? None of these people are going to do. We should go back to the original plan. I'm wondering if that original plan was the wire Marsk as Calorie to kind of help continue to boost this guy's ego and his work or whatever, and just patiently wait for that moment when things were just gonna fall apart for Hada. And trust me when I say it definitely did, from the rejection letter to all the negative comments to feeling like you can't accomplish anything. He literally breaks and he literally loses himself, and that's exactly what the wire Marsk was hoping for, building up that dark energy to kind of create this Marsk beast this week, and he certainly did that. So I'm wondering to myself, like, did Hada put all this sort of faith into just one kid to be his friend in like a day? Did they just know each other in like a day or 2 days? Like how long has this plan of Yodonheim been, have they been working towards this type of thing? Because what I find interesting is after Wiremarsk, who reveals himself as Calorie, right? At the end, when Juru does save Hada, Calorie's nowhere to be found. We never see him again at all. So I'm assuming that Calorie was the Wiremarsk all along. But if that's the case, why is Hada getting so damn attached to this one kid that this monster's literally been around for what, one episode? So I'm super confused, guys. And I think that's another reason why I don't know how to feel about this episode, because I feel like there's something missing in here. There's details about this friendship that I'm really missing out on, to be perfectly honest with you. So, and I almost feel as though, like, for me, I almost feel like Hada almost got the bad end of this. Like, Homeboy was saved, but yet he was still crying at the end. And then Homeboy literally moves his whole entire house out of there. And the only inkling of hope that we have, that good things at least happened to Hada, was the fact that there was a poster that he wound up seeing. It was just a really weird way to go ahead and end an episode. Like, you literally have been building this guy up to be a genius, right? About how great his artwork is. He gets absolutely broken and crushed, and we don't see this guy at all happy for the remainder of the episode, and then he vanishes. And yet I'm supposed to be happy for Juru when he sees a poster and he's like, I'm going to work hard. Well, what the hell happened to this guy? Are you sure that that's him, Juru? Are you sure? How happy is this guy? Is he still a recluse? Has he learned anything from, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just felt like the episode didn't go anywhere, and it almost left me on a more of a downer note than it did an upbeat note. I mean, hey, great, Juru, you become a great artist, but what happens to Hada? What is Hada's life like now without Calorie? You know what I'm saying? He clearly didn't stick around for Juru to continue to remain friends with him whatsoever. So if anything, I'm wondering if Hada's calling up like a suicide hotline or something, or if he's got supporting people around him, or whatever the case may be. Because I feel like Homeboy literally went through a traumatic event, somebody that he clearly clung onto so desperately, and then got pulled away from out of this Marsk beast to be saved by Juru. It's almost like the guy didn't want to get saved. This is where he just wanted to spend the rest of his life with the things that inspire him, that he loves, and this friend, his one lone friend. But again, if Calorie's been the Marsk beast this entire time, how long do you really know this guy for? Like, one day? Like, come on, man. So I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to feel about it, guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed the episode. I really did. If you feel like I'm missing something out of this episode, if you guys feel like maybe there was something that I missed or I'm not connecting with out of this episode, I would love to hear you guys kind of break it down or explain your thoughts on how you viewed this particular episode, because it almost made me feel like Calorie wasn't a real person this entire time, unless he was, and then he just went his own way, and then the next time we see Calorie, that's when the Wiremarks kind of approaches it. Because Homeboy did have a completely different personality when we see Hada crying at the bridge, trying to confide in Calorie. That's when he really came across like the villain. So I'm wondering if they've been the same person the entire time, or if there were really two different Calories out there. I'm assuming that's his name. Again, that's just a dumbass name. But yeah, so some good in this episode, with some really awkward and just uncomfortable and just menacing moments that I just did not know how to respond to. But maybe you guys responded to it a little bit better than I did. It just felt like a really weird episode, honestly. I just didn't know where it was going, to be honest with you. But you know what, guys? Let me get into your live viewer questions. Maybe you guys have some comments or questions in regards to this particular episode. Let me see here. I do have some questions from L'Oreal, aka Blossom. And I will say this, Blossom, when I watched this episode, I did immediately think of you. I knew for a fact that you were going to immediately love this episode. Like, when I saw Juru submitting his work, talking to people on the art forums, trying to get better at his artwork, I'm like, Blossom is gonna eat the hell out of this episode. I just know it. She says, can you believe we're 40 episodes in already? No, I can't. And I'm gonna be honest with you. The fact that this episode came at episode 40, I'm not the biggest fan of. Again, I appreciate the seriousness that Yodonheim is now approaching towards the Kiramagers, because it does feel as though they do have the upper hand. And mind you, getting the opportunity to see Juru kick the Wire Marsk's ass at the end, I thought was brilliant. The fact that he really took it personal, that the Wire Marsk wanted to just crush somebody's personal dreams and inspirations. The fact that he messed with somebody's feelings and emotions was like cardinal sin number one that you just cannot commit around Juru, because Juru will have your ass for that. And he was not playing at all. Like, homeboy had to like literally gather himself. He was so mad under that costume. He didn't even want to face the Marsk Beast at first, until he just could not hold it in anymore. And then he looks at him, and that's when he turns into his careful go mode and things like that. I just love just the whooping that Juru put on him. But I also love the fact that Yodana shows up last minute, yanks that Alusha Granderstone, and is like, we don't handle failures well, and then literally bounces on homeboy and lets him get it from Juru. I thought it was a slick ass move from Yodana, or I should say Emperor Yodon, also in regards to that. But yeah, Juru being pissed off at the Wire Marsk was great, along with Yodana's brief appearance in here also I thought was good. So again, while this episode made me scratch my head a little bit and make me question its placement and like, why did we get this episode, I will say there were some really great elements about it that I definitely did appreciate for sure. You say, doesn't that episode redefine the beauty of art? Or what? Yeah, no, it definitely does. I mean, it's a really great way to kind of get inspired, especially if you're just an artist in general. But I love the fact that Juru was like, isn't it cool that you're going to have a friend that's going to be a manga artist or author or whatever the case may be? So they were pretty hyped for at least knowing somebody that was so good at their artwork. What Juru did to save the artist was beyond more phenomenal, wasn't it? It was more phenomenal, but the question I have is, did Hada even want to be saved? Right? Like, did Hado even want to be saved? I again, and this goes to Yodonheim's brilliant plan. The fact that now that they've gotten homeboy so riled up and so pissed off at the world, now that he's a Marsk beast, that's like, go destroy, let your anger out on everybody that deserves it. I thought it was a really great idea. But then it gets weird and creepy, where you've got Juru who's like, I'm gonna save you, and the guy's like, I don't want to be saved, and it's just, and homeboy's crying at the end, and I'm just like, what happened here? So, congratulations to Juru for saving a man's life, but he clearly saved a man who did not want to be saved at that moment, or realized that he did not want to be saved at all. And hopefully he went on to get some help, but at the end, it's like he literally packed up his stuff and he left. And like, that to me is a sign of running away from your problems, not sticking around to become better at it, right? And the whole little thing from Tommy Tomo about, the guy doesn't have to change. And I mean, granted, maybe he doesn't have to change, but maybe get a little bit thicker skin, maybe not change, but maybe some help, like some therapy sessions. And again, I'm one for mental health. I'm a huge supporter of mental health. Like, I just wish the message at the end of this episode was a little bit better, because I felt like I was still stuck in a downer mode. Homeboy was crying, didn't want to be saved, moved right afterwards, and I'm supposed to be happy because his poster's on the wall, and Juru wants to work harder. Like, okay, I guess. So yeah, great effort by Juru, but I don't necessarily know if the outcome is what I personally was expecting. A couple comments from you. You say that Phoenix Juru drew in the beginning was beautiful. It was. It was also beautiful when it came out of his careful go arrow too. You say that episode was relatable on so many levels. The artist was afraid of change. I feel his pain big time. Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing that I did appreciate about this episode, is that I love that it does at least put to focus just the challenges of really the fears of putting yourself out there, right? Like, when I come on here each and every day, I put myself out there. There's not as much fear as there certainly used to be when I first started, but anytime you're an artist and you have to put yourself out there, and whatever you're creating and designing, you're just leaving it up for people to comment and have their own opinions, right? And so there does have to be a level of thick skin, some type of mentality in which you can learn to handle it or eventually kind of overcome that kind of stuff. So I love the fact that it was really thrown into your face. Like, this is not to say that, I mean, maybe it's like its own kind of pandemic, the idea of depression, right? And the idea of being socially awkward and not having all this negativity kind of thrown at you because we are on social media, or we see this kind of stuff on the regular, if you will. The idea of rejection kind of does hurt. So I can, again, this definitely relatable for sure. I definitely felt that definitely in this episode, L'Oreal. So you're absolutely right. Very relatable. After all that happened in the episode, I have a feeling my sweet Babu will grow up to be a manga artist. That would be pretty cool if that is the end result for Juru. I can honestly easily see that, to be perfectly honest with you. But thank you very much for the questions in the comments, L'Oreal. But other than that, guys, I think that's going to do it for us here today. So thank you very much, guys, for definitely joining us for our episode number 40 review. Again, an episode that I just... I don't know, made me feel awkward, man. I just don't know. The idea of this kid being, friends with this grown-ass adult who clearly doesn't have social skills, like his best friend is a friend. And, granted, I don't know. If, like, the fact that Juru questioned it made me feel like it was okay for me to even question it to begin with. And then just to kind of see the path that this guy goes down, I don't know how I was supposed to feel about this storyline, to be perfectly honest with you. But how did you guys feel about it? I definitely want to know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. But other than that, that's going to do it for us here, guys. If you want to follow us on social media, you can find us at right here at APlus Opinions. Very active on our main page, which is Facebook. Very active also on Twitter. You can definitely check us out on Instagram as well as Twitch. And again, hit that subscribe button if you love our content, along with that big old thumbs up, guys. But until next time, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and as always, keep it A+. Kiramager change!